Rohini Nilekani is joining us now. She's a philanthropist that's well known in India. You've got your fingers in lots of different types of bowls, so to speak, whether it's trying to build community or markets or sustainable government. Thanks for joining us tonight. I want to ask you, because you see this from so many different grantees that you're funding, just give us an idea of the scale of the problem that India is facing right now.
Thank you, and namaste, Hari, and namaste, all viewers. Yeah, I mean, this is really unprecedented, right? Because nobody expected everything to unravel quite this quickly. The scale, I mean, we did some surveys recently together with Omidyar and Dalberg, and 60 to 70, 64% of the respondents said that they were facing serious loss of income. So, I mean, the situation is really dire. It needs immediate responses, as you've been hearing throughout your program. But I think the philanthropic community also needs to now start thinking of the midterm response. So, yes, there is hunger, as Anshu just told us, and that has to be dealt with first. But I think luckily in India, we have a very thriving civil society, and we have had a good reason to understand just how important that civil society infrastructure is in my country, because they have been the first responders. They've been going out there. They have a direct connection to the citizens. So they are giving us the feedback loops that we need to even tweak the state's decision-making process. And that's been something that we've learned, which has been positive. But there's a lot more, obviously, to be done. So I'm really grateful for ChaloGive and for what you are doing for the community in the US that is going to reach out to all our people here. Thank you so much for that.
So how have you pivoted some of your grant making or what you're thinking about during this crisis?
Yeah, so some of us went out and made a public statement as to what philanthropists should do at a time like this, which is basically operate on trust. All these years we've been having our NGO partners and we know them, we can trust them. At this point, we have said we will loosen up all our impact reporting requirements. We will give complete freedom in terms of the use of that philanthropic capital for needs on the ground as the NGOs see it, which I think is very important. We will come from a space of more generosity, so we are revising our budgets, doing what we have to do to respond as quickly as we can. And some of us are also saying that we will, right now, Hari, there is a lot of giving. Retail giving has stepped up considerably. There has been corporations in India have been giving to all the government schemes as well as to NGOs. But some of us are saying we will also hold our firepower so that when some kind of donor fatigue sets in, and I really hope in your community there will be no donor fatigue at all, but when it does set in, then some of us will have to really think of what are the most structural things that need to continue to happen so that people's livelihood loss, water security, we are just heading into the most severe summer. We all need to start thinking about water security as more and more people are going back to their villages and intend to stay there. So I would say the philanthropic community is thinking at these two levels. How can you give much more flexibility to all your partners right now? And how can you start planning for the midterm?
How do you inspire or get the diaspora community engaged? Because as you mentioned, there is the potential for donor fatigue in the sort of closer community, but here are people in the United States, in Europe, in Africa, in South America, Indians from all over. How do you make sure that they are plugged into this, that somehow someone has either reached them or that they have a connection and that they can actually take action to solve or help solve the crisis in India?
Yeah, this has been an ongoing problem because I know from my travels and that many people in the diaspora want to give, but sometimes they don't know how to give and whom to give to. There have been ongoing attempts to create platforms, and Indiaspora is definitely one of them, so that you can build these networks of trust, so that there are channels like ChaloGive where people feel comfortable giving. So one thing is to create those intermediary organizations that allow for networks of trust to build, not just when there are disasters, but much before that. The second thing I think very importantly, and some of my funding goes towards that, is to allow NGOs to communicate better what they do, just to tell their stories better. There's nothing more powerful than a good story to keep people engaged. And so these are the two things I would say to reach the diaspora who cares so much about what's happening to about 600 million people who are in need. Because one thing I do want to say is that, we don't want to return to the old normal. The old normal was not a very just normal in India, right? There was not enough justice and equity. We want to use this opportunity to create a new normal. All of us who have anything to do with India know that all our fates are interconnected. So we keep that story of interconnection alive, and we keep being inspired by this interconnectedness so that we can engage our hearts and right now I think all your pockets as well, so that we can make things better, not just return to where we were.
That's a great idea to end on. Rohini Nilekani, you also know the value of a story by being a journalist yourself in a former life. And thanks so much for joining us, and good luck with what's going on in India and all the places that you're helping.
Thank you, and I hope in America as well. Feeding America, that's very important. We don't want to see hunger in America. We want America to do well too. So please give generously to India, but also to your own country's people. Thank you and namaste.